Thank you very much for giving this information, and very glad to be here and meet also my sister, let's say Rubina John, and very glad to be here and share our views and about our experience, especially during the dark days in Afghanistan. As you mentioned it, a lot of point about me, but I will go truly from the time that as a young, let's say, lady, when I finished my high school during the Mujahideen regime, and then I entered in the faculty, journalism faculty, but then unfortunately Taliban came to Kabul, and then we moved to Mazar-e-Sharif. From Mazar-e-Sharif, then we are searching the place that it's not under the control of the regime of the Taliban. I start my study at the journalism in Mazar-e-Sharif. Then after 2.5 years, Taliban came to Mazar-e-Sharif, and then as before, like everywhere in the country, they are not allowing women to go study, work, even for a medical checkup, and also without any man from home. We are like a prisoner. I was very, very young, and then it was so difficult. From university, you are dreaming for a good future and thinking always when you finish your study, you become and working in this field and this side. And then there's like every country, I think every human as a young, you always have a lot of dreams and a lot of hope to do something. And then unfortunately, when the Taliban took power in all Afghanistan, let's say more than 90% of Afghanistan, then they stopped all the women. And like today, they are not allowing any woman to work, study, or what they want. So I thought that my life is finished, or let's say like end, because we are like a prisoner. 5 years, there is no work, no activity, not allowed to go out. Even you are not allowed to listening the music or seeing, on that time it was video cassette movies. We are not allowed to see or watch that also in your home. It was entered. If they find some video cassette or even a cassette from your home, it's a music, then they will punish you till the moment that you said, okay, I will never try to look at them. And it was very, very difficult situation. And after a few months, I thought, what should I do? It's so boring. And then I start swinging, and then tailoring, this kind of things. And then I find myself that I'm not so, let's say, I feel that it's not my passion. Then I said, okay, I will not continue and not stay like that. And then I start a secret class for girls in our house. And then every day they are coming and I teach them and I say their stories, and always sharing a lot of stories from the book that I read it at the university, and also a lot of stories to read with them, write with them, to at least be active and do something for girls. That I always think that for everyone, especially for women, it's very, very important that if they are educated, then it will be big change for the society. And then after a few months, unfortunately, the Taliban warning to stop. I thought it's like a secret class, no one knows, because it's only around our area, only in this street that we are living. And then I couldn't take it serious, but after 2-3 days, number of group, like with 2 person with the, how do we say that, the shalak?
They
I forgot
whipped.
the name.
Whipped.
No, مثل کمربند که هست نامش فراموشم شد. Anyway, they are coming with some like a rubber to punish and whip the woman. And then I opened the door, and then they just arrived next to that, and they start beating me. and whipped me. Then I said, why? What is our crime? For what reason? And then they said, don't talk too much. And then they are trying to very strongly, they whipped me. And they said, do you think that we don't know every day girls are coming here and you are trying to teach them? And then I said, no, we are teaching here Quran. You can come and see that there is only Quran we are reading. And they couldn't believe, but it was true, because we are not only teaching Quran, there was a lot of other books, including Quran, or not really Quran, but the book that they are reading in a school. There is some subject about the God and the Quran, aqayat. I don't know the name in English. There is a subject in the school that we are also studying to know about the religious and this kind of things. And then finally, they went and they said, if you are continue like that, we will kill you. And then I went at home and I was crying, and my mother said, one day they are coming and kill all of us because of you. And my mother said that you forgot, now everything is changed. There is no hope for a future. Why you are trying to do that? Please stop. And I said, Mom, it's so boring, always stay at home and just stay, and there is no TV. On that time, there wasn't only one channel of the RTL belonged to the government, and there was any media broadcast in Afghanistan. And always we are trying to watch a movie by a video cassette. And no telephone, no internet doesn't exist on that time. And it was, and even we are not allowed to go out. So it was so, we are like a prisoner. There was anything. So the only things I thought that it's interesting to teach the girls. And then I stopped, but life became very, very difficult and not easy to stay there. And also after a few days or maybe few weeks, I went with my sister to buy some food for a family. And then again to Aryubwal Maruf, my burqa was like it was so hot and I couldn't cover my face. And I was just walking the street, no one was there, only few kids, guys, they are playing in the ground. And when I passed, crossing the street, the other Talibs, Aryubwal Maruf, they call that, they arrived, and without any question, they trying to beat me, and they said, cover your face. And I said, I will do, but I was so hurried and also worried and tried to fix it, but couldn't succeed. And my sister, she was so young. I was on that time, I think, I don't remember it. I was more than 17 or 18 years old, or maybe, sorry, I was on that time, 19 or 20, something like that, very young. And then without going to buy anything, we came back at home. So it's so difficult after 20 years. Everything is changed in Afghanistan. When the attacks happened in New York, then the life became changed for everyone. And like every woman, we are happy for, we thought that the life has really become normal. And then I came back in Kabul and finishing my study, and they start working. And I was first young girl at the university, refused to not wearing a burqa or chadri, let's say that. And then in 2003, I was first young journalist. On that time, we are only 3 or 4 female journalists that working in that field, and I refused to cover it my head. And it was not easy. It was so difficult because you can imagine enduring all this war in Afghanistan, the mentality of a lot of Afghans are changed, because not easy for a young generation to become freely everywhere, and especially working with the media. When I started my work as a journalism in Afghanistan, Few times when I went to cover some program, they said, this is not for women. This job is not for women. That's only for men. And I was laughing and I said, what is different? We are trying to work. So I said that there is nothing different between me and the others. We are just coming and covering. Even on that time, let's say after 11 attack happened and after new regime, it wasn't so easy. I'm sure that Rubina knows more than others, because the mentality of people was changed and everyone is trying to do slowly, but finally we, let's say, open the way for the others. Start working with the media. As a woman, it wasn't acceptable, but we opened the way to not covering. It wasn't on that time really difficult. I received every day like hundreds of message and warning, and even in the street, I wasn't so quiet, and everyone is coming and treating me. But I said I will never give up, and this is the way that we try to receive our right. I always said in our country, if we are not resist, then no one is giving our right. Otherwise, the same regime will coming and nothing is changed. So
thank you so much for sharing your perspective, Lailuma. Thank you so much. I can't wait to hear more during the question event. I just want to give Rubina a few 5 minutes to give an introduction to herself, but clearly your resiliency is just unmatched, and it's just incredible to see. So thank you so much for sharing your perspective, and I'll hand the floor over to Rubina.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me here today. And it's nice meeting you, Lailuma John. So to introduce myself, I'm Rubina Aryubwal. I'm living with my family in Toronto. I currently work with GHR on Afghan evacuation project. I have Bachelor of Business Administration degree from Pakistan. I have another HBA degree from University of Toronto. I did my major in political science, minor philosophy, and minor French. I want to become a lawyer and help women and children. In order to better understand that why I want to help women and children, I briefly speak about my own life experiences that will help to understand how it feels to be a woman and a child in Afghanistan, especially under the rule of the Taliban. When Taliban seized Afghanistan for the first time in 1990s, I was a little child. I wanted to become a lawyer. I wanted to study very hard for that, because from the childhood, I was very vocal about my rights. I wanted to be considered as equal as my male cousins, my male friends. And I used to speak against all the discriminations. I was totally against the conventional way of life. And it was bothering me if someone was telling me, oh, you're a girl, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't wear this, you shouldn't wear that. You shouldn't talk to boys. You should stay away from them. And all the stereotypes regarding women was always bothering me. And I still remember the day when I was 10 years old, when Taliban took over my city of Mazar. You know, the entire city was empty, and there was fear everywhere. And we left our house. We went to one of our relatives' house in order to go to Pakistan early in the morning. I still do remember, in the morning, my mother came to me and gave me a big chadar to cover my head and body, but that chadar namaz was not covering my face, and I was only 10 years old. And one of the checkpoints, a Talib came and told my mother that why your daughter is not wearing chadar. And you know, like burqa or chadari, we call it chadari. And chadari is like that blue burqa that women are wearing in Afghanistan. It covers everything. There's only a little bit screen that you can see through. And my mother told the Talib that, oh, she's only 10 years old. She's a little girl. The Talib said, no, she has to wear the, chadari. And I don't know, somehow my mother and father, they found a chadari from someone that I don't remember from whom. And I wore that chadari, a 10-year-old girl. And then we went to Pakistan and spent a couple of years in Pakistan. We had no choice and we came back to Kabul and lived a life under the rule of the Taliban. I was stuck at home with my mom and sister. And if we wanted to go outside, we had to wear burqa and go with a man, which is what they called it muharram, a male escort. And once I went with my mom to pick some groceries, I wore the chadari, the burqa, and I couldn't see my way. And I picked some stuff with my mom and I fell down in a small trench. And I was bleeding and my clothes were fully dirty. I was crying. A shopkeeper brought some water and my mother washed me and we came home crying. The next time, my other sister, which she was 9 years old, she went with my mother, to pick up some groceries. She wore like a chadar. A chadar, I don't know, some way it slipped, and a Talib came and whipped her and told her, "Tikrai de pusarka," which means wear your chadar. She came home crying. We were stuck and we couldn't do anything. And from there, I thought like we should do something. And as same as Lailuma John did, we opened a school because by every passing day, I wanted to become a lawyer and that dream was going away, you know. And then my mother and I started underground school for women and children. I started teaching them English. And there were even some children of Taliban coming. They were stopping other children from studies, but their children were coming to study to our house. And finally, like Taliban came to know about that and they came to our house. They told if we don't stop, teaching people English, I don't know from where they came to know that we are teaching them English and other stuff like reading and writing. My mother was helping them with reading and writing. And they said there will be severe punishment for you guys. And finally, 9/11 happened. We went back, to Pakistan. And there I want to mention something which is very important. In 2001, when the Americans invaded Afghanistan, when NATO took over the control of Afghanistan, Taliban was not only the enemy of Afghanistan. Warlords such as Abdul Rashid Dostum, they were also the other enemy of Afghans. They killed so many Afghans. They made a lot of money. So my father started speaking against them. And we thought like we will be protected by international communities like Americans and other countries, which didn't happen. We got death threats from Abdul Rashid Dostum because he became the vice president of Afghanistan. And we had to go to Pakistan. And we spent 9 years in Pakistan. And after spending almost 9 years, we finally came to Canada. I want to mention something very important here. Like when Americans took, control of Afghanistan, people were very optimistic about their future. I mean, like Canada and other countries supported women. Women became doctors, engineers, scientists, nurses, and they started dreaming again. It's very important to mention that the foreigners didn't make Afghan women strong. Afghan women were already strong. They just needed an opportunity, which the foreigners provided them. And now that opportunity has been taken from them. And it's really sad. And a lot of women are not ready to go back to that dark ages to wear burqa again. And I'm sure they will fight for it. They will fight for it, and they cannot win this fight alone. They need their allies. They need international community. So I request the Canadian government and other international communities to help Afghan women. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That was so powerful from both of you. Clearly, there's a lot of parallels between the two of you. First, deeply rooted in your activism. Second, in helping and assisting the communities, especially in terms of learning. I think that seems to be a very prominent position that you both have kept. And Rubina, just to follow up on something you just said, yes, Afghan people are incredibly strong and resilient. First, they had to fight against the Soviet Union. Then the US came. They thought that there was some kind of relief to that. Or then the Taliban came, thought there was some kind of relief, no relief, had to fight against them. Then the US, then they had to fight against them. So it's been so many years of Afghan people just fighting for their own right, their own country, their own identity. So it should be absolutely highlighted that there's a very strong resiliency in that people, in that group of people. And I think, you know, that we should just all take note of that. I'm just going to ask you both one question and then I'll pass it on to the audience questions because I see I have some going already. But what would you say to women activists who are choosing to stay silent in Afghanistan or outside of Afghanistan because they're unable to advocate for themselves? How would you encourage them to participate?
So if Lailuma is not answering first, then I'm going to answer the question. As I told you, Afghan women are very strong and they have stood for their rights. They are standing for their rights. I'm just encouraging them that they shouldn't keep silent, because if we don't stand for our own right, there will no one else that stand for our rights. It's very, very important. I know in this situation, it's very risky, but keeping silence against the injustice is injustice itself. So I really encourage them to fight for themselves, and I encourage like the international communities to help women to stand for their rights.
Thank you very much.
If I may add very short parallels, let's say, as Rubina just said, that we are always trying and pushing, let's say, the women, especially now in Afghanistan, the first day, the collapse of Afghanistan, I said for the girls, please don't stay quiet and silent. If you stay silent and quiet, then they think that you accept their rule. And this is the thing that we never want that. And we are always supporting them. I know it's easy for us to say, but more dangerous for them. We have a group of activist women in Afghanistan, and we are working on that. We organized a demonstration a few days ago next to the Ministry of Women, and we are planning to make another demonstration soon in Kabul, not only in Kabul, I mean, in all the country, if we can organize it, and also in all the world, to show that you are not alone and we are trying to support. And as Rubina John said, this is the time that I think all the women in the world stay and stand with us and support us to become more stronger. I know 1 or 2% to stay is, if we stay 1,000 together, then we become more stronger. And then that become more like say, to show our solidarity to each other. And then I think it's make us very, very stronger to defend our rights. Thank you.
Absolutely. I feel just electric from you saying that in the first place. Yeah, so we have some questions from the audience. Oh, also for the audience members, I'm going to be following what these two women are doing, and I'll be posting their projects. So if you want to keep updated, you can either follow them on social media, or you can follow me or the CIC or whatever, and follow their projects, their ongoing projects. So one person has asked, what options are there to protect journalism in Afghanistan and Afghan women journalists? Is there something the international community can do?
So to answer your question, I'm currently working with JHR, Journalists for Human Rights. We're supporting them. We're providing them an opportunity, and we're flying them from Afghanistan to the second countries, such as like Pakistan, Turkey, Qatar, and other countries. And it's not only the journalists. We know, like, it's not the person that is fighting the Taliban. You know, the Taliban will arm the families too, so we're helping to bring the journalists and their families to Canada, and we're helping them to stay in, in other countries, and we are helping them we are helping them for 3 weeks. We are providing them food, like shelter and everything, and then we are advocating for them with the Canadian government, and like the Canadian government is doing their job, their background check and stuff, and we are bringing them to Canada finally. So I really appreciate, other countries, international communities, and Canada to help, these journalists, because they are the people that they're raising their voice against the injustice. And, it will be unjust if we leave them alone, because they fought for us. They raised our, their voice. They help us to raise our voice. If we don't help them, I mean, like, it's gonna be tough for them to fight their fights.
Thank you so much, Lailuma. Did you have anything to add to that?
Just a small point that we are also trying to help them, but it's not easy from many different ways going to help them with the European Union and also some international community they are working for women's rights and all the activists. But for the moment, there is no embassy exist in Afghanistan and everything is closed. It's a little bit difficult and take too much time, but we are also trying to find a way to support them, especially for the evacuation process. And for the moment, we are trying to keep them and protect them. So that's the most important, but it's not easy, but we are trying to do our best to have some chance, at least, to get as much as we can, especially the women that they are really in danger.
Thank you for your response. I have another question that I hope this anonymous attendee doesn't mind me ad-libbing a little bit. They asked to hear your opinions on how to advance women's rights and human rights in the Taliban's controlled Afghanistan. However, through my research for this panel event, I found that a lot of people actually disagreed with how human rights was being implemented in the last 20 years because it was very Western centric. And I'm wondering if it's possible to implement human rights with women's voices being the focal point and being the focus rather than us, the West, kind of telling them how to do it. Is it possible? And if it is possible, what do you think about that?
This is a very good question, but it is not easy to answer it, I think. If compare the life of not only, let's say, Afghan, at least the society, the population or the people who is living in Afghanistan in 20 years, it's more different than now, but because 20 years, there was, in the beginning, more than 50 countries supporting Afghan, let's say, government and also Afghan population. And then we are more become like a feeling it's, let's say, 20th century is also exist in Afghanistan before we think that we are living in the 18th century, but when everything is changed, then we also change. The Afghan people, especially the women, are not the women they are living in 25 years ago, and everything was changed. The way of they are thinking, they are educated. More people are trying to do a lot of activities, and 20 years make them like a new, young, let's say, generation. They are all educated and they are westernized, and it was really in the good track that we went. Democracy was, let's say, exists in Afghanistan, but the things that really not acceptable is after September, August, let's say, when the Taliban came power, then it was a question mark for everyone that they said 20 years, everything is changed. But how is possible that in a few weeks or few days, we went back? We are trying to go forward, but they push us, or they put us in the way that we were before. So it was like a question mark. How do we accept it happened with us? And it wasn't a, let's say it was really a good plan or good strategy that they did, but the way that they planned to withdraw from Afghanistan and leave Afghanistan alone, it wasn't really good organized. And this is the bad mistake they did, especially United States, that they planned to sign that agreement between Taliban and also between the American. It become, I mean, in my idea that they put Taliban legitimized in the world and they bring a terrorist group in the negotiation table, then they become more powerful, and then the life is changed. And so it is something like unacceptable. And we never think that it happened, especially in that time, in that moment. There is more than 40 countries active in Afghanistan, and it happened like that. It was unacceptable. And let's say, for me, it's just a nightmare. We saw it, and that's not really the things that we hoped for that.
Yeah, I think the perception of Afghanistan is getting lost in all of these different wars and just all of these different takeovers. So yeah, you're totally right. Like, we think that time starts at a certain point, but really it's been so much. Like, I know in the region, for instance, they were pioneers almost, because they were in the 60s and 70s, right? They weren't covering their hair. So we need to give credit where credit's due and pay closer attention. Rubina, do you have anything to add?
Actually, Lailuma John has explained everything very well, but I want to add more stuff. Like, I'm contacting my friends, my teachers, everyone, like almost on daily basis. I'm contacting all these female journalists, and they are still in state of shock. They don't believe what has happened to them. And one of the girls says, like, look, Ruby, I worked for 20 years really hard. I went to school day and night, even they were not doing financially well. Their families paid for their schools, for their education, for their food and everything. And she was kind of optimistic. Okay, after these 10 years of studying very hard, she's going to go to work and change her life. But unfortunately, it didn't happen. And Taliban came, took over the control, and their life changed. So they feel abandoned. They believed on international communities. They didn't expect this coming. They thought like the world is there to support them, but it didn't happen. Now they are kind of shocked, hopeless, and they still they don't believe what has happened.
I honestly can't imagine, right? So many of us had our lives stop when the pandemic happened. And we thought that we were so frustrated by that, but to have prolonged government stop your life, stop all efforts that you've just had, I can't imagine the frustration, the devastation, the loss. I can't imagine that. But it does kind of remind me, Lailuma, about your question to NATO, or about your statement to NATO to ask them not to recognize the Taliban as an official government. What would it mean if NATO does recognize them as an official government? And even more controversial, what would happen if the Taliban government failed? Because then that's one more government failure in Afghanistan, which also isn't a positive thing either. So what do we do here?
Good question. Let's start by don't recognize the Taliban. It was my first message until the moment. I will never be silent that it happened. I always, in my all interviews and also in all press conference, I ask the same question. Because if they recognize the Taliban, then this life will be hard and difficult for a woman. They said, we respect or accept the Sharia law. And the Sharia law is for them, women should stay at home. So it's very difficult. We don't want that. As a Muslim, for me, my Islam said that man and woman are free to educate it, to work, but they are not accepting that. I don't know from which Sharia they are talking.
Yeah.
So that's why I said we must stay strong and raise our voice. Don't recognize the Taliban. And I am sure this message will pass always everywhere in the world. And the world now, as I said, that they are a little bit wake up. Still, they are not really fully wake up to see and to hear the thing happen in Afghanistan, but they are little bit awake and they are thinking. Otherwise, I'm sure after a few days, maybe they are recognizing the Taliban and they put us again in the same time that we were before. So it's unacceptable. And for the moment, I'm very optimistic because all the international community, including United States, and also here in Brussels, European Parliament, they said, we will not recognize them until the moment that they are showing their rule, especially for the women. And even for that, I said, be careful. They are also playing. They become more from the terrorist group, they become a little bit for the political groups. And they said in the media that women should also come to work, but they didn't mention it from which all the offices are closed. In the media, in more or less 2 months, more than 150 media was closed. And mostly the workers were women, the journalists. So the schools are not start yet, the university the same, and also the administration office, they are closed, but men are going to this to their work, but they are not allowing women. So this is the things that they should carefully look at them and also keep their eyes open to screen everything. And I'm sure for the moment, they are not agreed to recognize the Taliban, but as you said, for the fall of the government. So for the moment, there is no government in Afghanistan. And they are bringing 17 people in their cabinet who is still in the blacklist of the United Nations. They are terrorists. If we call that government, for me, I will never say that, because for me, Taliban is also terrorist group, and I never accept them as a government in my country, and I will fight for that. And even if they are killing me, I will never stay quiet and always fight for that and ask for the world don't recognize them.
You raised some really, really good points in that a lot of the international communities are standing up against supporting them individually and saying, nope, not until you recognize women. But then you also made the good point that they're hiding the information that they choose to share with the world. Like, you know, I was reading about how they're threatening prominent women journalists, and how if they can't find the women journalists, they'll go find their families. And so they're not sharing those bits of information, right? Like they went on some media frenzy and they hired someone who was polished and dressed well, and to make it have this appearance that they were doing better than they were. But Rubina, that actually brings me to my next question, in that how can Canada, who's accepting all these refugees coming in, as you know, Lailuma just spoke about the US and Belgium, how can Canada support the refugees coming in, and what can Canada do to support the Afghans currently still in the country?
Well, to answer your question, that we know the Canadian government is helping Afghan refugees. They are bringing them to Canada, and which we did. Like we brought some families to Canada, and we are still in process of bringing some families to Canada. The only thing that concern me is that, like, you know, this immigration process, it's very complicated process. And when like these families, Afghan families, they move to other countries like Pakistan, Turkey, and there are like camps for them, right? they has to wait there for their case. Like the Canada is going to do background check and everything, and it's a long process. I'm not saying that Canadian government shouldn't do that. I'm just saying that, you know, for people who left their countries due to the war and fear, it's going to be unhealthy to stay for a long time in another country in camps. For instance, like in Pakistan in camps. We spent 9 years in Pakistan, and I know how it feels. It took us 9 years to come to Canada, and like this process was very long, and especially for children and women in camps. I mean, it's going to be unhealthy because of their health, because of their studies, everything. They don't have money. There will be no school for them. So I'm kind of like asking Canadian government to help, you know, bring these people to Canada safely, because like the children, it's the children that they are going to be affected by this long process.
Yeah, and you guys are screened almost every day, or at least weekly, right? As well. Like it's impossible to keep your sanity or to, you know, to thrive in that kind of environment. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
So, I mean, I was going because I wanted to be educated. My mother, like, for her, like, it was the most important thing that her children be educated. I wanted to go to law school in Pakistan. I couldn't, but I did my Bachelor of Business Administration. I feel something is better than nothing. I mean, there are like a lot of families that they stood for like their children's rights. They wanted their children to be educated. Now they're in other countries that they can't go to schools. So I mean, it's not really different for them, you know, to not go to school in other countries and staying, you know, under the rule of the Taliban. So it's almost the same thing for me, I guess.
Thank you so much. So I'm just going to ask one more audience question, and normally we end with a how can young professionals get involved question, but instead of that today, hopefully we can end with you both talking about your current projects that you're working on, just really briefly, so that our listeners can go and follow you afterwards and just kind of stay in touch. Our last audience question is, what do you think are the best sources to learn about what's happening in Afghanistan? I guess what they mean is, which are the most credible sources that we can follow?
I think it's very difficult to answer this question, because for the moment there is no freedom in Afghanistan, and there is no media free in Afghanistan. They are not allowing to publish or writing the truth that things happen in Afghanistan. The only source will be the international media, but even for them it's not easy to cover everything. They are not allowing to going street by street, I mean city by city or provinces, to see what is going on. Because a few days ago I saw a reportage from a journalist who went to Afghanistan, and during the 2 weeks he stayed in Afghanistan, and he became in shock, and he's in the hospital for the moment because he saw a lot of things, and he said that we are not allowed to take a picture or even to record something. And he said that he saw the genocide in Panjshir, and also some other genocide in Jalalabad, also in Baghlan provinces, in Badakhshan. So this kind of things, we never saw it in the TVs, or never saw it by publishing in other international media. So it's very difficult to answer this question, but time to time, some social media, they are posting by different name, and they are not publishing all this kind of information through by their account. They send some video from their friend in the foreign country, and then they are publishing. Even that, the media in in social media in Afghanistan, they are filtering them, I published few weeks ago a video. It was really violent. And then after a few seconds, Facebook dropped that video. So this is the things that not easy to find the real and the truth information through by media, but time to time the international media are covering, and this is the only source that we can saw this news about Afghanistan, I think.
Some very good points. Thank you very much. And Rubina, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, in order to add something, I'm saying like now it's the right time for us Afghans. We have friends, we have families. I know the media suppressed, and like journalists from other countries, they cannot go to Afghanistan and cover, everything properly. It's like we Afghans, we have families, we have friends, and we have schoolmates, so we should talk to them, and we should bring their problems, and show them to the world. And if we keep silence, I think there will be no one to raise their voice. So that's, I think, our duty, our moral obligation, that we should keep contact with our people in Afghanistan and bring their problems and show them to the world that what they are suffering and how they are suffering right now.
Just incredible answers. Thank you both so much. And then just to close it out, do you both just want to quickly talk about your current projects and where we can find you, like your social media or your work? Where should we look to find your projects?
Yeah, before I answer this question, I just said that few days ago, the Taliban published an official letter in few different provinces in Afghanistan, and they said that women shouldn't take the smartphone with the camera, and they are abandoned and they are not allowed to take photo or video. So from which side should I say the Taliban are changed or will be changed? Every day you will see a lot of things, and it makes me sometimes crazy. And sometimes I think that, what is our crime? We are human or not? And the word why they are not listening to us, and why they are not seeing us, why they are silent. One, let's say, small thing happen in some other country, everyone in the world, they will stay strong and they condemn and they say we don't want that. But again, the case of Afghanistan, all the world are silent, and they didn't say that. For me, this is like a coup. This is like a coup d'etat they did, and world only stay silent and watch us. So there's a lot of point to mention it about the crime or about the difficulties and dangerous life they put, especially in front of the feet of the woman. There is thousands of stories and a lot of difficulties that they are facing for that. And I would say that I'm sorry that we can't do anything for a woman. They are really in danger. The only things that we are trying to find a way to evacuate them, but it is not easy, and we can't evacuate all the women who is living in danger in Afghanistan. But the only things that international community is stay strong and support them and stay with us. This is one point, and for the covering the program or this kind of things, I'm active as a by my name Lailuma Sadid in Facebook mostly, and also with the YouTube channel, and putting time to time some report, but mostly not easy to publish some videos from Kabul, because sometimes when their face are available, they are asking us to not show our face. So time to time trying to talk with them and ask for their project, about the things that we are working together. And mostly from here, I always stay with them and said, we are organizing a demonstration. And as I said before, our next plan is a demonstration for next month. And then we will see what is going on. And also we are trying to find some national NGOs, which is still active in Afghanistan, small NGOs, to put them in contact with the other international NGOs to support them financially, or I don't know, for the humanitarian support, to some aid for the family, because more than 70% of Afghan population for the moment, they are under the poverty. So this is the most important point, that we try to help them humanitarian support, and especially when the winter is starting in Afghanistan, it will be more difficult, and then that's the things that we are planning to do something with them. And I hope that United Nations and also Red Cross, they find a way to succeed to enter in Afghanistan and help these people. And
Great.
we are working on that. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so everyone go follow her to keep up with what she's doing. And if you want to connect further, connect with me, and we'll find a way to help maybe support some of the initiatives. And Rubina, can I ask, what are your current projects? What are you working on?
Actually, I told you that I'm working with JHR, and JHR is helping Afghan journalists, especially women, and Afghan activists. So I'm kind of trying to help as much as possible. With my, I have a little bit background in immigration law. I'm translating for them in Pashto and Dari, and I also help, like, when they move to other countries such as Pakistan, I'm kind of helping them with Urdu languages. And I'm also trying to find out ways, to raise money in order to help women and children in Afghanistan with their schools, with their, they're deprived of their basic rights. I mean, they don't have toilets, they don't have shelters. A lot of people are displaced right now. They left their homes. Now they are living, in parks in Kabul city, and their condition is really, really bad. And I'm also kind of like urging the international communities, because they froze the money in Afghanistan, and it's going to affect people, because I'm talking to people in Afghanistan. Some of them are eating only once a day. They don't have even a bread or something to eat. So I want international communities to stop freezing the money, and because the people in Afghanistan, they are suffering because of the Taliban. I don't want them to suffer because of poverty. And so I think, like, we should all raise our voice against all these stuff. So that's, I think, the right time, to help Afghan people.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And just to supplement what she just said, what she means is over 80% of money coming into Afghanistan was from international aid, and many people's salaries even depended on that international aid. So with the money being frozen right now because they don't want to give the money to the Taliban, who would be the residing government if they were to come to government, there's a kind of a stuck situation of what do we do and how can we help. But yeah, everyone go follow Rubina and Lailuma. And if you want to connect further and you want to do some advocacy on the ground, connect with me, because I'm working on some things as well that I would love some support with. But that is the end of our time for today. You are both incredible, incredible women, incredible speakers. You're just absolutely magnetic. I couldn't keep my ears off this conversation, and I just really appreciate you for joining us today and giving us an hour of your time. I know just how busy you both are, truly. And if you enjoyed this event, thank you so much. Our next event is October 8th at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard or 12 p.m. Eastern Standard. And we'll be joined by Sheila North, who was the former Grand Chief and creator of the hashtag MMIW, which is Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women. So again, thank you all so much and have a great day or evening, depending on where you are.